Karen shattered my daughter's face with a paint roller, called her a stain on the neighborhood, then kicked her while she was down. So I let Bear, my canine-trained war dog, hunt her like she wasn't even human. He dragged her off that lamppost like dead meat and pinned her like prey. She cried, she bled, she begged. I didn't care. I tied the leash around her neck, handed her the other end, and told her to choose: crawl or bark. What she did next, even I wasn't ready for it. Everything started the day I moved into this neighborhood, thinking it would finally be a safe place for my daughter. They say peace is a place. I believed that. Once. Believed it enough to pack up everything my daughter and I had left, throw it in the back of a rusted pickup, and drive away from the wreckage of a life I never wanted her to remember. After the divorce, the layoffs, the eviction, the nights she clung to her stuffed rabbit while sirens screamed outside, I promised her something better. We found this place. A quiet corner house at the edge of a manicured HOA neighborhood. Pine trees swayed in the wind like lullabies. The rent was cheap because the neighbors were strict. I didn't care. I just wanted a patch of sky where my little girl could draw chalk rainbows and not be afraid. Her name is Lila. She's 9. Gentle, wide-eyed, always humming to herself. She thinks our dog Bear, a retired military Malinois I once trained overseas, is a superhero in disguise. Maybe he is. Maybe we both needed saving. The first day here, she made a sun out of yellow chalk on the sidewalk. Just a simple sun, smiling. I watched her from the porch. For a moment, it felt like healing was real. Then the first warning came. A sharp knock. A woman with hair too perfect and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked down at the chalk, then up at me. "This is a private community," she said. "We expect standards." Her name was Karen Whitmore, president of the HOA, and something in her tone, something cold, judgmental, artificial, made my gut twist. I smiled politely, said we'd clean it up. But as she walked away, Bear let out a low growl, the kind he used to make right before an IED went off. And I knew. We hadn't found peace. We'd just stepped into its enemy. The sun hadn't even set when Karen returned. This time, she brought a clipboard. She didn't knock, just marched across my yard like she owned it, her heels stabbing the grass, her perfume hitting the air like poison. Bear tensed before I even saw her. I stepped onto the porch, met her halfway. Lila peeked from behind the screen door, clutching her rabbit. Karen didn't glance at her. "You left a tricycle by the driveway. That violates Section 8C. Your porch light is too bright. It disturbs community cohesion. And your dog..." She looked at Bear like he was a disease. "That animal needs to be restrained. These homes are for families, not war zones." I clenched my jaw. He's a decorated service dog, and my porch light works just fine. She smiled thinly, a smile like a scalpel. "This neighborhood thrives because we maintain order. Disruptions don't last long." She handed me a notice. 3 warnings in one day. A record, apparently. "You're not from here," she added, voice dipping into a hiss. "You don't belong in a place like this. I suggest you start learning the rules, or pack your things before someone makes that decision for you." I stepped forward, close enough to smell the lacquer on her nails. "Listen to me, and listen well. I've dealt with warlords with more decency than what you're showing. You knock on my door again with threats, and I will respond in kind. Legally, physically, however you want it." Her smile twitched. For a second, she saw something real in me. Then she turned, sharp, stiff, and walked away. Lila came out, looking up at me. "Why was she so mean, Daddy?" I knelt down, kissed her temple, and whispered, "Because people like that hate what they can't control." But deep down, I knew it was more. Karen didn't just want control, she wanted submission. And she had ruled this neighborhood for so long, no one had dared push back. Until now. Until me. It was the kind of morning you hope lasts forever. Lila was outside humming to herself, drawing chalk flowers on the sidewalk. her rabbit toy propped beside her like it was watching. I had just poured coffee. Bear was sunbathing by the porch steps. For once, the world felt steady. And then came her voice. Unacceptable. I turned. Karen stood on the edge of our yard, arms folded, sunglasses glinting like polished glass. Behind her, the street was silent. Cars parked perfectly. Curtains fluttered, but no one stepped out. Just like always, they watched, but never interfered. She took one sharp step forward, stilettos stabbing into the concrete. Your child is vandalizing community property again. I laughed once, dry, sharp. She's drawing a butterfly, Karen. You want to arrest Monet next? She ignored me, stalking toward Lila like a lioness in pearls. My daughter looked up, smiled, still innocent enough to believe the world was kind. Hi, Miss Karen. Look, it's a rainbow, she chirped. Karen slapped the chalk from Lila's hand. It scattered like dust. You were warned! You were warned! She shrieked. I was already moving. Fast, but not fast enough. Karen snatched Lila by the arm, yanked her up so hard the rabbit fell to the ground. You little parasite! This isn't your playground! Then, it happened. Karen raised the long wooden handle of a paint roller she had in hand. Something she must have brought, premeditated. And she swung. Crack! It hit the side of Lila's face. She dropped with a thud, limp like a broken toy. The coffee mug in my hand shattered on the ground as I ran. My vision tunneled. I couldn't even hear myself screaming. I dropped to my knees. Blood trickled from her hairline. Her breath came in tiny, shallow gasps. Bear was already growling behind me, low and guttural, pacing, ready to launch. Karen didn't flinch. She tossed the roller down like garbage. She brought it on herself. Maybe this will finally teach you your place. I stood up. Get off my property. This is my property, she barked. This whole neighborhood is mine. You don't belong here. You never did. Bear's growl deepened. I whispered just one word. Enough. Karen hesitated. Her eyes flicked to Bear. She backed up one step, then another. You'll regret this, she spat. You're the only one bleeding today, I replied. But tomorrow, we'll see. She turned and fled, but not before I saw it. A flash of fear. Real. Human. Bear. Lila stirred in my arms, whimpering. Her face swollen, her tiny hand trembling as it reached for her rabbit. I looked down at her, at the blood on her cheek, and I swore, in that moment, Karen Whitmore would never lay a hand on my family again. Not without consequences. Not without pain. Not without the whole neighborhood watching. If someone did that to your child, would you let it go? Or would you unleash hell? Comment yes, if you're still here and ready to see what I did next. The blood on my daughter's cheek hadn't dried. She was in the house now, bundled in blankets, eyes half-lidded, trying to smile for me so I wouldn't worry. I told her everything would be okay. I kissed her forehead. I lied, because outside, Karen was still yelling. She had stormed to the middle of the street like it was her stage, her personal kingdom, her HOA-run empire, phone in one hand, waving the other like she was directing traffic or ordering executions. He assaulted me, she screamed to someone. That dog of his is a weapon. They're dangerous. They need to be removed before something happens to someone important. That was the word that snapped something in me. Important. She hadn't even looked at Lila's crumpled form. Hadn't asked if she was okay. Hadn't shown an ounce of regret for smashing a paint roller into a child's skull. No. She was out here playing the victim. Rallying her imaginary army. Performing for curtains that were barely cracked. I stepped out the front door. Bear was already by my side. Karen turned when she saw us, and for the first time, her voice caught in her throat. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't armed, I was calm. But Bear wasn't. His growl didn't rumble. It vibrated the air. He wasn't barking. He was stalking. Back! That dog needs to be on a leash. Karen's voice cracked. He is, I said quietly. To me. I took a step forward. So did Bear. Karen stumbled. Her heel caught the edge of the curb. She turned to run. Not toward her house, but down the sidewalk, past the trimmed lawns and flower beds she used to lord over. She was heading for the corner, for the lamppost, the tallest one in the cul-de-sac, right beside the HOA bulletin board. "Stay away!" she shrieked. "Someone call animal control!" No one moved. She looked around. Windows shut, doors locked. The same neighbors she once ruled over, now watched in silence. And then she climbed. Gripping the metal post like a flagpole, Karen Whitmore hiked her tattered dress, scrambled up the first rungs, and clung to the pole like a cornered raccoon. Bear stopped 10 feet away. He sat, calm, cold, watching. I crossed my arms. I didn't say a word. Karen's voice turned shrill, desperate. "You're all going to regret this. This man is violent. He let his dog chase me like I'm trash." Then someone across the street finally stepped outside. Mr. Harris. Retired. Once fined $200 by Karen for having a pink flamingo in his lawn. He pulled out his phone. Hit record. "Smile, Karen," he said. "You always said cameras were for accountability." Others followed. Phones raised. Cameras live. And Karen, clinging to the lamppost in broad daylight, makeup smudged, hair matted, sweat dripping, screamed like a villain caught in her own trap. Bear never moved. He didn't need to. The whole world was watching now, and for the first time, Karen Whitmore had no place to hide. Karen clung to that lamppost like it was the last branch above a pit of fire. Her face was a twisted mask of rage, fear, and denial. The face of someone who ruled too long and never imagined the fall. Neighbors had their phones out now, some openly laughing, others simply silent, stunned. No one stepped forward to help her. No one wanted to. But I wasn't done. I walked closer. Slow, deliberate, Bear trotting silently at my heel. I stopped just beneath her perch. "Come down, Karen," I said. Calm, even, cold. "Or do you plan to run your empire from up there?" she hissed. "You won't get away with this. I'll press charges. I'll sue you. I'll have that mutt put down." That last word made Bear stand. His ears twitched. He let out a low snarl, eyes locked on her. Sharp, deliberate. "You just threatened a service dog in front of 24 witnesses, all filming. Keep going," I said. "Dig your own grave deeper." Karen's grip trembled. "You're a monster," she whispered. "You brought filth into this neighborhood. Trash like your daughter, like that dog." I didn't flinch, but Bear did. With one leap, he launched halfway up the post, claws scraping metal. He didn't need to reach her, just remind her he could. Karen screamed. She slipped. The scrape of her palms against the pole was sharp and sudden. And then, gravity won. She fell hard. Her back slammed into the mulch at the base of the post. Her heels snapped. Her dress tore up the side. She groaned, tried to scramble, but Bear was already on her. He didn't bite. He pinned. 2 massive paws slammed onto her shoulders, holding her down. His snout hovered inches from her face, breathing heavy. Saliva dripped onto her cheek. Karen whimpered. Please get him off me." But I waited. I knelt down beside her, meeting her eyes. "You hit my daughter with a paint roller. You called her a parasite. You mocked a man who's buried friends under flags you've never saluted." I leaned closer. "And now you lie in your own neighborhood, covered in mud, mascara streaked, surrounded by the people you used to control, and not one of them lifts a finger." Bear growled again, slow, primal. Then he did something I didn't expect. He lowered his head and licked the blood that trickled from her scalp. A claim, a mark, a memory she'd never erase. I stood. "Bear, off." He obeyed. Karen didn't move. She stayed there, trembling, disheveled, breathing in short, sharp gasps. Her crown shattered. Her throne. Dirt. As I walked back to my house, Bear at my side, the neighborhood watched. And for the first time in this wretched, manicured, rule-obsessed HOA, justice didn't come in the form of a fine. It came with claws. Karen didn't scream when she stood up. She whimpered. Mud streaked her legs. One heel dangled from a broken strap. Her blonde hair, always shellacked into submission, now looked like seaweed clinging to a drowning woman. But her eyes still burned with hate. I'd seen those eyes before, not on a suburban lawn, but in combat zones, behind cracked windshields and smoke. The eyes of people who couldn't admit they'd lost. She staggered up, brushing herself off with trembling hands. "You assaulted me," she spat toward the growing crowd. "You all saw it. That man's dog attacked me. He's dangerous, unstable." Bear didn't flinch. He just sat beside me, calm, quiet, eyes fixed on her like a sentry that never blinked. The crowd didn't move. A few lowered their phones. But no one looked concerned for her. No one came to her side. Karen glanced around, realizing it. "You're all complicit," she hissed, voice cracking. "This isn't just about me. It's about our values, our standards. What kind of neighborhood are we without rules, without order?" Mrs. Langley, a widow in her 60s, stepped forward. She had been fined by Karen for having wind chimes that were too loud. Once, Karen even trespassed into her backyard to remove them. "We thought rules protected us," Mrs. Langley said. "Turns out they just protected you." Murmurs, nods. Someone clapped. Quiet at first, then others followed. Karen's mouth hung open, stunned. Her kingdom, revolting. She tried again. "He's a thug. A dropout with a killer dog. I've read his file. He's ex-military, probably unstable. And that child of his. Did you know she drew on my sidewalk?" I stepped forward, slowly. "Your sidewalk? That was my daughter's chalk, her rainbow. You destroyed it. Then you destroyed her face." Karen stepped back. I didn't need to touch her. I didn't even raise my voice. Truth did all the damage. "You ruled this place through fear, fines, and threats. But now? Now they see you. And they remember." Someone from the crowd spoke up. "I was fined for having a garage door open too long. She made me remove my holiday lights mid-December. She told my son his bike was visual pollution." It kept coming. Voices, names, infractions, petty power plays. Karen trembled. Then, she did what cowards do best. She lied. "This is all coordinated. He turned you against me. You're all being manipulated." She reached for her phone, no doubt preparing some sort of mass email, one last desperate HOA decree. But she never got the chance. Mr. Harris stepped forward, phone in hand, and played the video, the full clip. Karen dragging Lila by the arm, swinging the paint roller. The audio was sharp, her voice clear, the moment undeniable. Everyone watched in silence. When the video ended, no one said a word. Karen lowered her phone, her fingers shook. I didn't mean. She provoked me. But there was nothing left to salvage. The HOA members who once nodded at her memos now turned their backs. And Karen Whitmore, once queen of clipped lawns and control, stood alone in a crowd that had stopped believing she mattered. And for the first time, she looked small. She should have left, after the crowd turned their backs, after the video played, after the silence turned against her. Karen should have crawled into her SUV, driven out of the neighborhood, and disappeared from our lives like a bad dream. But Karen Whitmore wasn't wired that way. She didn't know how to lose. She only knew how to escalate. And the next morning, she did. I was sitting with Lila in the living room, gently applying ointment to the bruises on her temple. Her eye was still swollen, but she smiled through it, braver than anyone I've ever met. Then the knock came. Not a knock. A pounding. I opened the door and froze. 2 men in uniform stood there. Animal control officers. Behind them, a 3rd man with a clipboard. "We've had a report that your dog attacked a resident," the lead officer said. "We're here to take him into temporary custody pending a formal hearing." Bear stood beside me, silent, watching. I didn't speak at first. I didn't need to. Because Karen stepped into view, smug, sunglasses hiding her battered pride, but not the malice in her voice. "He's unstable," she told the officers. "Everyone saw it. That dog leapt at me. It's a threat. You're lucky I'm not suing the entire county. I turned to her. Slow, measured. You're filing a report now? After half the neighborhood filmed you beating a child with a stick? That video was edited, she snapped. Propaganda. Lies. One of the officers glanced at the man with the clipboard. He shrugged. Ma'am, we're going to need a statement from you and any raw video evidence. I already deleted it, Karen said quickly. It's irrelevant. The officer raised an eyebrow. Then we'll need to interview eyewitnesses. Let's start with your neighbors. Karen's smirk faded. The door across the street creaked open. Mrs. Langley stepped out. Then Mr. Harris. Then the couple from Unit 7B. Phones were ready. Screenshots, saved videos, text messages, all time-stamped, all damning. Karen's face paled. This is harassment, she shrieked. You're all colluding against me. No, I said, stepping forward. We just stopped pretending you were right. The officer looked at Bear, then at Karen. Ma'am, given the volume of conflicting evidence, we won't be removing the dog at this time. You're welcome to attend the public hearing, but I suggest bringing legal counsel. Karen tried to speak, but her voice cracked. You'll all pay for this. I know people. Real people. Influential people. You think this is over? I stepped onto the grass, closer to her. No, Karen. It's finally just beginning. By sunset, word had spread. The HOA board held an emergency meeting, without her. A unanimous vote removed Karen Whitmore from her position as president. She tried to walk into the clubhouse that night and was turned away by security. She stood in the parking lot screaming. No one filmed this time. No one needed to. Because somehow, screaming in an empty lot is louder than any microphone. And that night, a single moving truck pulled into her driveway. The next morning, she was gone. No farewell, no apology, no grace. Just a bitter stain on perfect sidewalks. And a community no longer afraid. For the first time since we moved in, the neighborhood felt quiet. Not fearful quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. But real quiet. Peaceful. Earned. Karen Whitmore was gone. No one said her name. No one needed to. The house she left behind sat still. The curtains closed like eyelids, refusing to see what had happened. A for sale sign was planted in the lawn by noon. But what lingered wasn't just the echo of her screams. It was the hole she left behind. The twisted shape of a power that had loomed over every driveway, mailbox, and flower bed. And we had to ask ourselves, what do we build where fear once ruled? The answer came slowly. It began with a meeting. Not in a sterile clubhouse, not under the watchful eye of Karen's laminated rulebook, but out in the open, under the very lamppost where she once clung, shaking, eyes wild with entitlement. That pole was still standing, bent slightly from the scuffle, still bearing scratches from Bear's claws, still sacred in a strange, poetic way. Someone, I don't know who, zip-tied a small wooden sign to the pole. Burned into it were 6 simple words. Here, fear was dragged into daylight. No one took it down. Instead, we gathered, the entire cul-de-sac, folding chairs, lawn blankets, coffee thermoses, kids running barefoot. No one called it a town hall. It didn't need a name. What we built that night wasn't a replacement HOA. It was a pact. A promise that no rule would ever matter more than the people they affected. That complaints would be voiced in daylight, not behind anonymous forms. That no child would be scolded for chalk drawings, and no elder fined for holiday lights. We voted. Not for new power, but for shared responsibility. 5 volunteers formed a council. Rotating seats, open books, transparent decisions. And at the end of it all, someone suggested we keep the post as it was. Unpainted, unpolished, untouched. Let it lean, Mrs. Langley said. Let it remind us what happens when we lean too far the wrong way. Later that week, I stood beneath that same lamppost with Lila. Her bruises had faded, but she still held her rabbit tight. Bear laid nearby, tongue out, ears alert, tail still like stone. She looked up at the sign. "Is that where she screamed?" Lila asked softly. I nodded. "It's also where the neighborhood stopped being scared." She didn't say anything else, just drew closer to me and whispered, "I like it better now." So did I. And maybe, just maybe, so did everyone else. Because sometimes, what brings people together isn't perfection. It's the crack in the sidewalk, the scar on the pole, the shared silence after the shouting ends. And beneath the crooked metal and flickering light, we finally stood straight. It started with a patch of grass, uneven, weedy, and scarred where Lila once bled. Most people would have avoided that spot, maybe paved over it, pretend it didn't happen. But not us. Not this community. Someone left a note in my mailbox. No signature. Just a folded sheet of paper with 6 words written in shaky pen. "Let's build something where she fell." I sat with that sentence for a long time. Lila was the one who broke the silence. We were out walking Bear. She paused at the edge of the sidewalk, that same old stretch where she once drew chalk rainbows and Karen shattered them with a paint roller. Now the chalk was gone, but the space remained. "What if we made a place where kids can draw as much as they want?" she asked. I knelt beside her. "Would you feel safe there?" She nodded. "But only if Bear watches." The next day, I brought it up to the new council. Within a week, neighbors brought shovels. By the weekend, there were volunteers, people who once feared Karen's clipboard, now laughing as they laid down mulch, installed benches, strung up a chalkboard on a cedar frame. We didn't hire a contractor. We didn't ask the city. We built it with bare hands, borrowed tools, and something deeper than money, shared memory. Kids came. First 2, then 5, then more. They brought chalk, bubbles, sidewalk paint. They brought joy back to a place once soaked in fear. We called it the safe spot. Not officially. There's no sign, no plaque, but everyone knows. It's the patch of earth where judgment used to live, now reclaimed by laughter. One afternoon, I sat on the bench with a coffee in one hand and Bear's leash in the other. Lila was crouched by the chalkboard, showing a new girl how to draw clouds with 3 colors. Mr. Harris walked by, slowed his pace, and nodded at me. "You know," he said, This is the best damn HOA project I've ever seen." I laughed. We didn't need an HOA for it, just a reason. He pointed to Bear, alert, quiet, watching. That reason got a good guard. I never thought I'd feel pride looking at a corner of sidewalk. But I do. Because the safe spot isn't just a place. It's a promise. That no child here will be told to be quiet for being joyful. That no neighbor will be punished for living colorfully. That what was once cracked can be repainted. And as the sun dipped low that evening, casting golden light over the chalk-covered pavement, I realized something. We didn't just build a park. We built a future. One where Bear rests easy, where Lila runs free, and where no one, not even a Karen, can ever touch that peace again. There's a stillness that comes after storms, not silence, not absence. Just stillness, the kind you earn. It had been weeks since Karen left. Her house stood empty now, blinds drawn, mailbox sealed with a yellow tag that read, "Unclaimed." Someone said a bank owned it now. Others said no one dared bid. But no one talked about her anymore. Not out of fear, out of choice. Because when something ugly dies, you don't carve it into the town square. You plant something better over it. That's what we did. The safe spot was growing. Kids from the next neighborhood started showing up. Parents brought juice boxes and lawn chairs. One Saturday, a neighbor set up a projector and played old cartoons on the fence. Lila and her friends curled up in blankets on the grass, their laughter cutting the air like birdsong. Bear watched from beside me, tail thumping once every few seconds. The rhythm of a soldier finally at peace. He was getting older. I saw it in the way he sat down slower, rose a little stiffer. But he never once let that place out of his sight. Not even once. One morning, Lila asked me something. "Daddy, if Bear wasn't there that day, what would have happened to me?" I didn't answer right away. I looked into her eyes. Clearer now. Brighter. The bruises were gone. But kids remember. They carry memories like stones in their pockets. "I would have been there," I said. "But you weren't fast enough." It wasn't blame. It was just truth. I nodded. "No, I wasn't. But I learned something that day, sweetheart." She tilted her head. "What?" "That being fast isn't what protects people. It's being willing. Willing to stand. To act. To fight. If we have to. Even when no one else does." She thought for a moment, then smiled. "Like Bear." Exactly like Bear. I tell myself sometimes that we were just lucky. That things could have gone worse. That if Karen had pushed harder, if I had snapped sooner, if Bear hadn't been trained, if that fall hadn't gone just right. But then I stop. Because it wasn't luck. It was choice. We chose not to be afraid. We chose to stand up. We chose to protect each other. Even when the rules said sit down and stay silent. And that choice changed everything. They planted a tree next to the lamppost last week. A cedar. Lila tied a ribbon to it. Blue, for Bear. There's no plaque, no monument. But people come. They stand there. Some nod. Some cry. Some just breathe deeper. And when the wind shifts, it hits that old post just right, and you can almost hear the metal groan. Not like pain. Like memory. Like a growl that finally settled. Into a whisper. And that's where we live now. Not in fear. Not in HOA fines and warnings and whispers behind blinds. But in a place where chalk drawings bloom every morning. Where laughter is louder than rules. And where one dog's loyalty changed the way a neighborhood defined courage. Not with claws, but with conviction. They say pain changes you. And maybe they're right. Because I came to this neighborhood just hoping for quiet. Hoping for a patch of sky where my daughter could feel safe. Where the past wouldn't follow us. I didn't come to make enemies. I didn't come to fight. But the day Karen shattered my daughter's face with a paint roller. That was the day I remembered something I'd buried deep. Something they drilled into us in the military. If you don't draw a line, someone else will draw it for you. And they'll make sure it cuts straight through the people you love. That day, I drew the line myself. And I let Bear stand on it. But here's the thing. This story isn't about revenge. Not really. It's about what came after. After the screams faded. After the leash dropped. After Karen disappeared and her perfect little HOA kingdom collapsed into silence. Something grew. From the blood-stained concrete where my daughter fell came color. From a crooked lamppost came truth. And from the bark of a retired war dog came a community that finally found its voice. We built the safe spot. Not just for Lila, but for every kid who's ever been told they were too loud, too messy, or not the right kind of neighbor. We kept the post crooked. We planted a tree beside it. We didn't erase what happened. We grew around it. And every time I see Lila laughing under that cedar, drawing chalk suns with kids from 3 streets over, I realize something. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about protection. Sometimes it's about choosing not to stay quiet. You don't need a war dog to defend your home. You don't need scars or rank or training. What you need is refusal. Refusal to be bullied. Refusal to stay down when someone hurts your family. Refusal to pretend that rules are more important than people. That's what broke Karen. Not just the fall, not just Bear, not even the cameras. It was when the neighborhood refused to be afraid of her. So if you've ever felt silenced, if you've ever watched someone abuse power while others stood back, let this be your reminder. You're not alone, and you don't have to stay quiet. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in my shoes, If someone hurt your child the way Karen hurt mine, would you have stopped where I did? Or gone even further? Comment below. Yes, if you'd protect your family without hesitation, or no, if you think there's always another way. I'll be reading every single one. And while you're here, if this story hit something in you, if it made you feel, think, or even just made you proud of that one moment someone finally stood up, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next time someone refuses to stay silent. Because this is just one story. And in a world full of Karens, we need more bears. We need more people who draw the line and stand their ground. Thanks for watching. Thanks for feeling this with me. And if you've ever been knocked down by someone who thought they were untouchable, remember this: they only win if you let them. And out here, we don't let them.